Hey everybody, my name is Myers Corp Cosplay, and we are here to talk all about bringing weapons to Comic Con. Now, this is something I've seen over the past decade plus of going to cons and decade of cosplaying. People are not exactly sure what weapons they can bring to cons, which ones they can't. So, I'm going to give you my take from, again, over 15 years of attending conventions on what I think you should bring and what you shouldn't bring and why. For those who don't know, my name is Myers Corp Cosplay. I've been a cosplayer in the Southern Ontario area for over a decade. I've been attending conventions for over 15 years, and I have made a bunch of different weapons. I've made big cosplays, I've made small cosplays, and I have, again, seen the cosplay world explode when it comes to the detail and the amazing creations they can make. But with that, and some of the characters that are in popular culture, it does form a bit of a problem if you want to cosplay these things at conventions. So I'm going to go through what I think you should be doing if you're wanting to attend these cons with any of these type of weapons. So let's start off with the basics. Should you bring weapons to a con? Yes and no. I mean, it really depends on many different factors. And I think one of the main things that we need to think about is the con itself. Now, most cons have a website and have a page on the site that talks about a weapons policy or a weapons check policy. And that usually lists what weapons to bring, you can bring, which ones you can't bring, how they're built, and things like that. They may have a check that you have to go through when you enter the con where they'll check your weapons and stuff like that. Here's the problem with that though. With some conventions, and I'm going to use Fan Expo Canada for a lot of my examples because that's the con I've been going to for 15 years. That con has its website that has all those details on it. However, the security that's at the front of the doors is not Fan Expo security. It is the venue security. It is the Metro Toronto Convention Center or wherever the cons are being held in your neck of the woods. The problem with that is that the people who are working the cons, who are for the arena or for the building, don't know all of the things that the website has. So if there's fine details of, make sure there's an orange tip on a gun or the blade doesn't have this type of look or something like that, they might not know that. So you may go up to them and you might say, well, the website says this. They're not going to care. They're being told by their security, head of security or whoever, that they have their own policy because if something goes wrong, they're the ones who are going to be the first ones to be looked at. So when it comes to using the website as a guide, I would say go with it as a reference, but I would not use it as an end all be all for your cosplay weapons. Now we're going to go through a couple styles of weapons and things you can do with them and things you can't do with them and things you should remember when you're building them or buying them. Let's start off with swords. Those are pretty much one of the most generic ones that a lot of cosplayers use. You can see them in anime, you can see them in Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. Foam and plastic are the two materials that I would say you're pretty safe with bringing to a con. You can use EVA foam, you can buy plastic ones from the dollar store or all different other places, replicas that are made of plastic. Those are the ones that you're probably not going to have any problems with. Even if you paint them to be, screen accurate, they're going to look a little plastic and you can probably not get into any trouble with those. When it comes to real ones, you obviously don't want to bring them into a con. Now, I've heard some people online bring up the point of, well, if I can't bring them into a con, why are there vendors at the cons who are selling them? And that is a fair point. There are some vendors that do attend conventions that sell replica metal swords or blades. This is this is sort of a gray situation. What you probably don't know is that if you were to buy a weapon like that, you are to keep it in the box. The box is usually pretty heavily taped, so to get into it would take a lot of effort. And you are to keep it in the box while you're walking around the convention. If you are to take it out, or if for some reason it was sold without a box, you are to immediately take that outside out of the convention, so it is not walking around the convention. Because those blades, whether they're sharp at all or if they're completely dull, they still have weight behind them and can cause damage. So while they're sold in the conventions, you are obviously not allowed to walk around with them freely. They're to stay in the box or leave the convention and drop it off somewhere and come back. Now you've got martial arts style weapons. They could be nunchucks, they could be big bow staffs, they could be sais if you're, let's go through the TMNT weapons. Again, foam, plastic, those are the ones you want to stick with. If you want to make it out of eBay foam, I've seen tons of tutorials of how to do it. I have a bow staff that goes with my Gambit cosplay. It is completely PVC. It is a hard plastic. It could do some damage if I wound up in baseball bat at somebody, but I'm probably not going to do that. It has been through security check. I've not had any problems. Now, obviously, all these things have counterparts in real life. There are wooden bow staffs. Those are probably not going to get through security. There are metal sais. I have a set actually in my trunk upstairs. They are metal, they are dulled, but they are still metal. They will do damage, they won't be allowed in. Same with nunchucks. Nunchucks are I've never seen someone successfully get them in because even plastic ones can do some damage. So, sorry to the TMNT folks, unless they are heavily foamed, they probably will not get through security. This last one is the gray area that I see a lot of people talk about, and I see so many people have their ways of scooting through security and getting away with things. And I just want to say right now, guns, no. Guns are a no-fly zone for me. I personally, if there was a cosplay I was doing, I've done a grifter cosplay, I've done a makeshift Punisher cosplay. I would never bring any type of gun to a convention, whether it was an airsoft, whether it was a Dollarama one that I've painted black. I would not bring it for many reasons. First off, the con security only knows so much about these weapons. They are not weapons experts. They are not someone who does this on a regular basis. There's probably 1 to 2 conventions that they deal with on a yearly basis. They are not weapons experts. So anybody who uses the excuse of the trigger doesn't move so it should be safe, or there's no magazine in it so it should be okay, or if it's got an orange tip even, which is the one that I think I've seen so many people talk about, this is not the chances of you getting through security with these arguments are very low for one main reason. There is a 1 second check that you can do at home that is pretty much going to show you what a security guard would think when they're checking you. This is what you do: get whatever prop you have, lay it on a table. You're going to get a family member to come in. Don't look at the table. You're going to have them turn their back and they're going to face the other direction. You're going to move out of the way. They're going to turn for a split second, 1 second. They're going to look quickly at the table and turn back. And you're going to get them to tell you, do they think it looks real or not? Now, this is the best way to check if a weapon should make it through security or not, because you have to think of security in a situation. If they're in the middle of a con, just walking through a crowd, people everywhere, things moving, things all over the place, and they see someone across the room in the middle of a crowd, they're going to see the weapon that you're carrying for a split second. They have to make a split-second decision. Was that weapon something that looked real, or was that something that looked fake? That is very hard to do when you're that far away and they look as real as they are. So anybody that does that test, usually, if you can do that test and it's something, bright colored like a Nerf gun or something that doesn't look like a real gun, you're probably safe. But anything that looks very close to a real gun, I would avoid bringing it to a con for multiple reasons. I mean, you don't want to show up with a gun like that and be stopped by security and you have to figure out something to do with it. They're not just going to hold on to these weapons, by the way, when they confiscate them. They're either going to throw them out or they're going to tell you to go back and drop them off at your car, your hotel, wherever you came from. So that could be a very big inconvenience. Also, that's going to affect how much you put into the cosplay. If you put all this time into, these are the things that affect the cosplayers like the Rainbow Six cosplayers or the Call of Duty or the Umbrella Corps from Resident Evil. These are guys that are heavily military looked, which has a lot of pouches and a lot of weapons on them. If you put all that time and effort into that cosplay and you can't bring half of your stuff in, that's going to be a problem. Like, that's seriously going to damper how much fun you're going to have at the convention. So anybody that wants to do a cosplay that looks like that or has those type of weapons, please enjoy yourself, have fun, make those cosplays. But please don't bring them to cons for multiple reasons. And I think I've explained most of them. But lastly, there are some people who have unfortunately dealt with situations like this at conventions. There have been multiple times over the years where people have brought, unfortunately, real weapons to conventions. And there was a famous story back in the day where someone dressed up as the Punisher brought real weapons and real ammunition and tried to assassinate a celebrity. That stuff sadly happens in this world, and you don't want to accidentally be someone who looks like that and possibly have something happen to you or be misinterpreted or something like that. It's just not worth the stress. It's not worth the hassle, and it's not worth what the consequences might be. So, if you want to do a cosplay like that, please enjoy it, have fun, go take some photos, go hang out with some friends, go somewhere secure where you can take some photos and take some videos. They look amazing, but bringing it to a convention, I just I would highly avoid it. So, unfortunately, certain weapons you shouldn't bring to a con. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped bring some light to some of the things and some of the reasons why conventions have the rules they do, and some things that you can bring and some things you can't bring. If you have any questions, hit them in the comments. And if you like the video, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button. We're going to do some more cosplay videos over the next little while. My name is Mark from Corp Cosplay. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys soon.